Hey everybody, welcome to another video where I don't remember what I read decades ago. I'm Eric Smith, this is Reading Remembrances. Maybe I should change the name of this video series to Reading Disremembrances. But I'm talking about April 1986. Should I start these videos like the Dollop podcast? April 1986! It doesn't work for me, especially without a sidekick to make jokes. Anyway, this is what I read in April of 1986. It was a long time ago. First thing I read is Anthology by Piers Anthony. It was a short story collection, and I'm 99% certain that I bought this on the way home from spring break in Daytona Beach in 1986. Because I distinctly recall reading this on the bus. I went to spring break through a college package, Lorain County Community College, so all of my college buddies and I were on a bus to and from Florida, and I'm pretty sure I picked this up at a bus stop and was reading some of it on the bus on the way home from Florida. But again, it's a short story collection from Piers Anthony, and there are story notes which were mainly Piers Anthony bitching about editors not buying his stories or wanting him to make changes or changing the titles without his permission. And there's only a few stories that stand out that I remember. There were a couple that were very sexual, and can't imagine why I remember those. And then there was one that was kind of extreme, especially for me at the time. Very extreme, I think, for Piers Anthony. It was about humans trying to open negotiations with this alien race. I think they were an alien race. But that race dealt in torture. So for a human diplomat to even be allowed to do any type of negotiating or talking, they had to withstand this crazy torture. So there's these not over the top descriptions. I mean, for someone who reads Wrath James White or Jack Ketchum or Edward Lee, this story was child's play. But again, for at the time and for this particular author, it was pretty graphic. And other than that, not too many of the stories stand out. I stopped reading Piers Anthony a long time ago. But I do remember this book. Second thing I read in April of 1986 is a book called Doomstar by Richard Myers. It was a science fiction book. I don't know if Questar must have been like a science fiction line. I don't know who the publisher is, but it had their books would have this Questar logo on the front cover, and I don't remember anything about this book. It's just, I think it was just a cheap science fiction book. I probably liked the cover or something. Next, third book in April of 1986, Dragon Rising by Wade Barker, and this was I believe the first in a series of books that featured, I think it's the only white man to have mastered the art of the ninja. That's all I remember about it. That's all I know. I don't know if I read any of the other books. We'll find out together as I go through this list. I have always been interested in the martial arts. I like fiction set in feudal Japan, things with samurai, things with ninjas, and so I'm sure that's why I picked this up. Had a pretty cool cover, but I don't remember too much about it. Next, we have The Osterman Weekend by Robert Ludlum. This is book 4 in April. I'm not a huge Robert Ludlum fan. I like thrillers, but Ludlum for me was, I don't know, I felt he was kind of dry, the few that I read, and this is not one that I remember at all. It's, I assume, just your typical Ludlum thriller. People trying to save the world, I guess. Number 5, Fletch's Moxie by Gregory MacDonald. I am a huge fan of the Fletch books. Gregory MacDonald's had a few series that he's written that I've enjoyed, but the Fletch books were very fast-paced, very funny. I should have pulled this book from the shelf because I do believe I have a copy over there. A newer edition. I kind of wish I had the old paperbacks. They were pretty cool looking. So for those who don't know, if you haven't seen the Chevy Chase movie, which the first movie isn't bad, the second Fletch movie is pretty horrible. But Fletch is a reporter. He's a smart ass, and he gets into trouble as he investigates different stories. There's maybe a dozen. Not exactly sure how many books in the series. They were written sort of out of chronological order. The first book, Fletch, straightforward, and then some of the later books take place before that book, but then some of the later books take place after all of those books, and then a couple prequels were written, and then there's some that feature Fletch's son. He has a son, spoiler alert. So I keep my books in the order that the characters go, not the order they were published. So they're kind of all mixed up. I don't remember too much about Fletch's Moxie, excuse me. I should have, again, pulled it off the shelf and looked to see what it's about. But I know I liked it. As you will see coming up, there are points in time where I would just get in the mood for Fletch and read all the Fletch books I had in a row. We'll get to that. Spoilers again. Next, what is this? Number 6 for the month was Fast Times at Ridgemont High by Cameron Crowe. Do I need to say anything about this? It is the novel on which the movie is based. And I believe, if I remember correctly, Cameron Crowe was looking for something to write and registered himself as a high school senior. And this is sort of the book that was inspired by that time that he spent in a high school as a senior. I don't remember how much is based on his experiences exactly. You know, if certain characters are fictional representations of people he actually knew. I'm assuming anybody watching this is familiar with Fast Times at Ridgemont High, the movie. It's a classic. I have not seen it in ages, but I enjoyed it. It's a very funny movie. And it kind of tugs at the heartstrings in some points. Next up, number 7, Nomads by Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough. This was... you have an archaeologist and a doctor, I think, trying to stop this evil that disguises itself as homeless people. It's this evil that they're nomadic. They just travel around wherever and cause havoc, and you have these characters that are trying to stop it. I probably read this, I think, because I'd seen the movie Dead and Buried, which I loved, and Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough wrote, I believe she wrote a novelization of the movie. I don't think the movie is based on her book. I could be wrong about that. Nomads was made into a movie. I want to say Pierce Brosnan is in it. And again, I think in this case, I could be completely wrong, but I think in this case it's an original book by Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough that was then made into a movie. I could have that backwards, but that's Nomads, Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough. Next we have The Multiple Man by Ben Bova, a big science fiction author. I've read a few of his things. This one I had to look up. There are a couple I had to look up here. And essentially, you have the President of the United States trying to clean up the country, you know, get the economy on track, get crime down, unemployment down, all of that stuff. Seems to be like a really good guy trying to do good things for the country. And one day, a homeless man is found murdered, and he looks just like the president. And he has the same, after they check, he has the same fingerprints, same DNA, all of that. He's basically an exact copy of the president. And the press secretary begins to wonder, is the president actually the guy that was elected president? Are there copies of him around? Has he been replaced? Is this homeless guy the actual president, and he was murdered and he was replaced by somebody? It's a kind of a sci-fi political thriller kind of thing. And finally, for April 1986, we have Spinneret by Timothy Zahn. Didn't remember anything about it, had to look it up. And the description said, humans are trying to colonize out into space, and every planet they go to is inhabited, because space apparently is really crowded. So a council of aliens offers humans this one uninhabited planet that humans could live on, and so the humans go there and problems ensue. And that's basically what the description is. I remember nothing about it. I don't think I'm a big fan of Timothy Zahn. I tried reading one of the Star Wars books he read and couldn't get into it, and I don't think there's going to be any more Timothy Zahn on this list. But that's it. That's what I read in April of 1986. A few things I outright remember, a few things I had to look up. Only one of these books do I still own, and I don't know why I didn't pull it off the shelf so I could show it to you. It's a very plain cover. All the Fletch covers just have the titles, and then basically a page from the book on the cover. Although, the print's larger, so it's probably maybe a quarter of the page, if that, on the cover, so you can actually read. Usually it's dialogue, because there's a lot of very witty banter, very good dialogue in the Fletch books. Again, Robert Ludlum, not a huge fan. We may come across one or two others. I think I reread one of them to see if it got any better, but I don't think it did. That's why you're not going to see a lot of his stuff on here. So that's about it. That's all I've got for April 1986. We're going to get into, obviously, as we get closer to the present, I'm going to remember more. Well, maybe I shouldn't say obviously, but I believe I'll remember more of these things. So we'll get some more interesting stuff. It's coming up. Don't worry about it. All right, so that's it. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. That's all I've got for you today. So until next time, read more books.